Hi everyone, how are you? I'm okay. Just got off a virtual appointment with a pulmonologist. Tell me what a pulmonologist can do over the computer. Not much. Actually, he was pretty cool. He's gonna schedule me for a lot of tests. I've said a lot of times, and a lot of my biker friends have said a lot of times, mental health and motorcycles go together. I've been working on mine for a long time, like a decade. And it's only been within the last couple of months, really. I've remembered things that I had buried. Oh, before I go on, please like, subscribe, comment down below. Let's get forward with this. I have a buddy that process lives in Idaho. He talks about this a lot. And since these things I have remembered came up, and some things that I've put together to try and figure out what the heck. I have C-PTSD. I made very poor choices from a young adult until probably the last few years. Does that surprise you? I know it doesn't surprise you. You know that. Some of you people are stalkers and leave crap on my stuff. I got to thinking that doesn't just happen. And I'm going to use this as a form of therapy. And actually I've got a session coming up in a little bit, about 45 minutes. But there's some things I figured out. I couldn't figure out why I was always so insecure. I was always so afraid of being left. Why I idolized certain people. Why the list goes on and on and on and on. A lot of people, many people, have the impression that I had a pretty rockin' childhood. My dad, I've spoken to him a lot. We were actually pretty privileged as kids in one sense, but we didn't have the emotional sense, the emotional peace, I guess you could say. My parents were very hands-off parents because that's what they knew. That's what they learned. And I came to terms with a lot of that. I went through an adult children's of alcoholics class that really let me come to terms with different aspects, different things that happened. I remember coming out of that class, not out of the entire class, but one portion of it, very, very angry with my parents. And then when I finished it, that anger had dissipated, and I had realized my parents had done the very best they could with what they knew, both being, you see that word? It's like gone. But they were both brought up pretty much alone. They didn't have a handbook. Their moms worked, and they kind of had to figure it out. I always said this, but I never really knew what it meant. I always felt like a byproduct of marriage and not a wanted child. And I know there's a lot of reasons for that. I'm not going to say the things really right now that my parents said that led me to feel that way. Like I said, my parents aren't to blame. They did the best they could with what they had. But I started wondering, why was I so insecure? And then my doctor had me take this ACEs childhood trauma test. There are 10 questions. I thought I had a 10 out of 10. I went back and redid it. Actually, I had like a 9.5 out of 10. And you need to have about 3 to be considered to have C-PTSD. Well, as you can see, the scales were sort of tipped for me. And I never would talk about my parents. I never would really talk about my childhood. But this is really interesting, I think. I somehow stumbled across some geology. That has to do with rocks, Teri. Genealogy, family history. And my gosh, lights went off. Listen to this. So, I spent a lot of time, I was born in West Texas. I spent a lot of time on my grandparents' farm, my grandmother's farm, and her parents. And a lot of this, I think, plays into it. I was only 18 months old when my granny died. Maybe subconsciously somewhere that had something to do with anything, but I only have one memory of her. And then my grandpa died when I was almost 5 years old. He died in 1967. 5 months after him, one of my very favorite uncles in the entire world died. In August of 1967. Then I had an aunt that died just a few months later in 1967. Then if that wasn't enough, my parents, I'm not blaming them. My dad had job opportunities that he couldn't have in this little Texas town. So we moved to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I left my horse, I left my dog, I left my farm, I left all the people that were still alive that I loved. Not blaming my parents. Please don't take it that way. So when we get to the Dallas area, one of the first things that I remember is the milkman was out in front of our house and a motorcycle, didn't see him, hit the milk truck, slid under the milk truck, and we watched him die. I watched him die. Tell me that doesn't traumatize a kid. My gosh, we're already up to 4 deaths in a year. Then we moved. When we moved, another one of my favorite uncles in the whole wide world died on my brother's birthday, September 28th, 1968. Then, I remember this clearly, first grade, Dad pulls me out because a cousin had died in a car accident in January 1969, I think. So I don't even know how many we're counting here, but the people that I counted on to take care of me, they were dying left and right. I didn't really know where they were going. I remember going to see my grandpa. I think he had had a stroke. I'm not really sure. His death record listed double pneumonia. I remember going to the hospital or wherever he was, and he was in a bed. And he couldn't speak. But I was up in bed with him. I was with him all the time, sitting in his lap when he was playing dominoes. We'd go out to Signal Mountain. I was always with my grandpa. But I remember this one time getting in bed with him, and he was looking at me in the eyes, and he was making noises. He wasn't really speaking, but I knew he was trying to speak. And I'm telling my dad, Grandpa's trying to speak to me. He's trying to talk to me. And everyone just sort of blew it off. I don't know if really anything was explained as to why everyone in my life that I loved was dying on me. But it's kind of setting a precedent here. Here's this little kid. The people she loves more than anything in the world are dying. Then I see a guy killed in a motorcycle accident. Then my dad picks me up from school in a car that smells just like my aunt. I think my cousin. She was 46 when she died. And that was first grade. So this is like from 67 to 69. All this stuff is going on. Then I had another uncle die. Now that uncle I wasn't really close with. He scared me. He really scared me. And he had this room that I was afraid of. I don't know why. I'm not making accusations. I just remember he scared me. And that's all really fuzzy for me. Then in August 75, another aunt of mine who I adored died. And to top it off, the person that I loved, that meant the most, that I knew I was safe with no matter what, I had to watch her die of cancer. It made a huge impact on me as a 15-year-old. So much that for years I would pretend that she didn't die and that she had gone off to get better, to seek treatment, because she was going to other countries to get treatment for her cancer. And I would pretend that she went to other countries and that she was going to come back healthy and it was going to be a big surprise for us. But she was really one of my only forms of stability, besides my two aunts. I had two aunts, my mother's sisters, Susan and Sandy. Sandy, I don't remember a lot when I was little because she was older and married, or got married soon after. I don't know. I was little when she got married. But my Aunt Susan, she would take me places. I remember walking through the cornfields with her. I remember doing these things with her. I remember watching her get ready for dates. I remember when she got married. I remember a boyfriend she had, Mac, that just sort of disappeared. I loved him. He just disappeared. Do you see what I'm kind of getting at? My foundation, those formative years, everyone I loved left. And then we left the only place I really knew I was protected. And we came to this scary place of Dallas-Fort Worth where more people ended up dying. You know, the guy on the motorcycle, that was really, really freaky. I mean, my gosh, we were right in the front of our house when that happened. And then a little bit after that, my dad worked at Love Field. I was with him and we were coming home. It seems like it was raining and it was nighttime. And there was a car accident beside us. And the man in the car beside us flew out of the windshield and into the back window of the car in front of him. I was terrified. The only thing my dad said to me that I can remember was, "Teri, that's why we always wear seatbelts." I mean, my dad was putting seatbelts in our cars before there were seatbelts. He would take them out of the airplanes and put them in our cars. The car didn't go anywhere unless our seatbelts were on. But it was also really scary riding anywhere with my dad because my dad was an alcoholic. And when he wasn't flying, he was drinking. And I remember so many nights just praying that we would make it home. That was really scary. You know, I'm trying to look at this from a 5-year-old's perspective, 5 to 6-year-old perspective. All of this happened then. And those are some pretty formative years right there. And the other day I was watching something or reading something, and I remembered when I was little trying to dig to China because I had a different family and I was trying to get to them. I was making up that I had a different family. I don't know why. I mean, my parents, today it would be called child abuse, but back then it wasn't. It was just whatever was close, But I think in order to get healthy, I really need to acknowledge, my gosh, this was huge for me to see all of the people that meant the freaking world to me die within 2 years. And then when my grandmother died, I thought I lost part of me, part of my soul. Then the thing that happened with the doctor, if you watched one of my Barbara Walters interviews, you'll know what happened to me with our family doctor. And I never told anybody. So that explains a lot. To me, that explains a lot of my insecurities. And it really shows me what I need. I need to open some more of these boxes. I need to find out why I was so afraid of this uncle I had. I have no idea. I have really not many memories of him. Trying to get healthy sucks. But it's the best thing I have ever done in my life. When I was at my worst, after my parents died, I pretty much cut off two of the people that were left in my family that meant everything to me. I thought I had some valid reasons for doing so. I'm sure they had valid reasons for the things that they did, but we were like missing each other. One of my aunts, after my mother was killed, actually both of them wanted to go through my mother's things and kept calling me, you need to go through your mom's things. What they didn't realize and what I failed to mention was I was in shock. My mom had just died. I wasn't ready to go through her things. And then my aunt thought that it was something else, which had never crossed my mind. And after I left, there was a situation that happened, and I'm not really sure why it happened. But the only reason I didn't, I kind of put off going through my mother's things, I was in shock. I wasn't ready to do it. My dad wasn't ready to do it. But those two aunts, my mom's sisters, after my parents died, and I'm telling you, I just figured this out after putting pieces together. They're the ones I look to for how I wanted my family to be. They were gregarious, outgoing, beautiful, wonderful. And I cut them off and out of my life. I thought, like I said, I thought I had valid reasons. And now what I'm thinking, after seeing all of these deaths when I was so little and there were only 2 left, Sandy and Susan, they were the only 2 left that took care of me. I'm thinking I pushed them away because I was afraid of something happening to them. I tell you, living in a mind where you really can't figure out why things are happening. And everyone knows I freaking broke. I went completely crazy, out of my mind. Yes, I admit it. Made a lot of bad choices. All because I didn't think I was good enough. If everyone you love leaves, you're not good enough. Kids think that. Kids think that they're not good enough. And then with my aunts, I still wasn't good enough. Had something happened to them, I really don't know if I could have made it through. But now none of us speak because I made poor choices. They made poor choices. And if they happen to watch this, I want them to know how much I love them. And I think I finally know why I pushed them away. They're the only 2 I had left. I keep everyone pretty much at arm's length. I've gone through these last 2 months with some pretty serious withdrawals. Not withdrawals from drugs or anything, but withdrawing, with isolating, with keeping people away from me. Yeah, a lot of my videos, you're going to see me happy and smiling and all of that. Yeah, that's a part of me, but today that's a part of me I have to pull out. And I wonder if that has something to do with my health condition. But I'm telling you, my gosh, how many... Oh, and then I had an Uncle Bill. And he was killed in 1951, which was 11 years before I was born. December 1951. And I had a cousin, Sonny, who was killed in June of 1952, still before me. Well, as the story goes via my dad, I have no idea if it's true or not. I know my Uncle Bill died 3 shots to the chest after a poker game. And my dad kept talking about this a lot, as if he was like trying to figure something out. And I don't know, I was just a little kid. And I never met my Uncle Bill, nor my cousin, but my dad was telling me, well, Sonny knew something about Uncle Bill's death, his murder, and he was coming to tell the family, and he was killed before he got to the family. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I believed because my dad told me that. And then my Uncle Walt, the one that died after we moved to Fort Worth, that devastated me to leave him. I remember when I was a little girl, the first thing when I would get to the farm, I would run into right into the door. They had the phone, and I would call my Uncle Walt and go over to his house. And I'd always, my Uncle Tex, they would bring, I just loved them. I loved them so much. But I looked at Uncle Walt's death certificate, and my dad had always speculated that this accidental shooting was because he knew something about my Uncle Bill's death. Well, I looked at Uncle Walt's death certificate. He was shot in the lower back, and the bullet exited his chest. It was really hard for me here at 59 years old to read. It was ruled an accident, but it also had inquest stamped on it. You know, Big Spring was a very small town, and I know there was a lot of stuff hidden, a lot of things happened, a lot of things, good old boy town. I don't know if it was an accident. I don't know whether to believe my dad, who led me to believe he was murdered. And I don't know why I'm telling you this, except it'll explain a lot about me. A lot about when I disappear for a little bit. And I tell you, when Dina died, my grandmother, the scales tipped because she and my two aunts, after everyone else had died, were the ones I knew I was always safe with. I would always have food. I would be able to eat with them. I wouldn't have to be eating alone with my brothers. And we always had fun. Susan, Dina, and I had so much fun going to the horse races, and oh my gosh, my aunt and I got arrested. I was 15 years old. We were going to Big Spring, and my grandmother's pimped out 1977 Lincoln Continental, which was lipstick red with white landau top. Oh yeah, we were looking pimping pretty much. So many good memories that have sort of been pushed away, all because what I believe now is I pushed them away from me to keep my heart safe. I was wrong. And if they're watching, I hope that they accept my apology, or at least realize what was going on. I tell you, therapy, I took a lot of the kids, we adopted a lot of kids, and that's part of my grown-up PTSD that was added onto my foundation of C-PTSD. Sandy, Susan, if you're watching, what I want you to know is there's so much you don't know. It looked like the perfect family, but I know you guys saw signs in me that weren't right, that were crying for attention. You just didn't know why. So I would ask you to please take that into account. But people, we're going to start on a mental health thing. I told you, I think in my last video I posted, I love my motorcycle because it gives me white noise. I don't have to listen to other people. It quiets the noise in my head. Here I am. I'm going to be 60 in May, and I'm just figuring this stuff out. Well, I tell you what, it's better late than never. And the motorcycle was part of it. You know, getting on the back of that motorcycle, it gave me confidence, which I've never had confidence. I pretended to have confidence, but I really never had confidence. I had a lot of insecurities. I still have a lot of insecurities. I probably always will. But finding out why, oh my gosh, how amazing is that? Most of the times. So I'm going to stop talking because I have an appointment in just a few minutes with my psychiatrist. I'm going to run this stuff by him because I found all this stuff out after my last appointment with him, and I tell you what, it's pretty weird. It's crazy. If something's bothering you guys, I know it's painful to open those boxes, but open them and get them out. It's much easier to deal with them when they're out in the open and you can look at them and say, oh my gosh, what the heck happened? Now I understand this. Now I understand that. Well, my gosh, with everyone I love dying within 2 years, these were the people that loved me and took care of me. That explains so much. And it's so freeing to me. A lot of questions came up with it. But Susan, Sandy, I hope you look back. I hope that you'll accept my apologies, my realizations. And what I would have to say to you is, I love you. And I hope you would come to me if you had questions or things to say instead of listening to someone with an agenda. I'm sorry I hurt you. I want to say thank you so much for listening and taking the time. You have no idea what it means to me to listen to a stranger tell you they're figuring stuff out. It's never too late. With that, I want to say have a fantastic weekend. I love you. Until next time. Peace.